Welcome to Once Upon a Quantum Leap. We are your hosts, Paul Madar and Capucine Chapman. In this exciting, very interesting, intriguing episode, we're going to be investigating health analyses. And this is all about your personal ecosystem. So get ready to explore with us the desire to change, your mental, emotional, and physical integration, and then especially things that interfere with healing and what helps with healing.
A health analysis is intended solely as an educational resource for your reference and as things for you to consider. It is not meant to be used for diagnosis or treatment of any health problem. All of our episodes will be good, but this one is super exciting for me because it's a health analysis. Actually, we're going to be talking about two health analyses. But the reason it's so exciting for me is because it's so relatable across the board, because who of us does not ever have thought issues, occurrences? I mean, whatever it is. I mean,
Everyone's got something.
everyone's
Yeah.
got something.
Yeah.
And so these two reports that we're going to talk about are of one person. And this one person did two health analysis at two different time periods, 2 years apart.
Mhm.
We can all relate to having some kind of issues in our life, health issues, mental issues, whatever it is. We all have something, aches and pains, whatever it is.
Mental, emotional, physical, right?
All of these things we all have something to do with, and we'll always ask ourselves, what's going on? What's going on with me? Can someone give this answer? Or maybe
Yeah.
we all have even that part that goes with it.
Yeah.
But the reason I like about it even more is because as I was listening to and rereading and typing these out, transcribing these, an image came to mind about this ecosystem. So it reminded me of how we have this relationship or a non-relationship with our planet Earth.
Hmm.
And I had this similar analogy of how we have this relationship or non-relationship with our own body, which is its
Okay.
own which has its own ecosystem. So we have thoughts that contribute to our health, our disorders, our diseases, our happiness, our joys. We have emotions that impact that. I feel sad. I feel irritated. I feel
Hmm.
annoyed. I feel joyful. And then
Yeah.
we just have the bodies. The body aches. The body's broken. The body is causing me more irritation, whatever it is. But I really like this idea of looking at a health analysis as if it was an ecosystem,
Hmm. All
which
integrated together.
everything is integrated
Yeah,
together.
interlaced. Yeah.
Yeah, and specifically for these two reports, um, the person who requested it had an initial desire, and that this is why this person requested this initial report, and that desire was to transform, to transmute.
Hmm.
So that's like I want to seek out this health analysis to see what it's going to tell me about my current condition, because this is the direction I want to take my life in. I want to have some element of change. Now, the word change is not used in the reports. The word transformation and transmutation are used.
Yeah. Big words.
Big
Big,
words. And
hefty.
so these two reports are going to tell us a little snapshot of time, like what the story is about, where her thoughts are, what her emotions are, what strengths she has. It's going to give us a snapshot of the first of health analysis, and then the second snapshot of the health analysis is going to give us the same thing. And if you can visualize this progression of time of this initial desire of wanting to transmutate, to change, and what occurred within these 2 years of, was I on course? Did I change? Did I get
Hmm.
stuck a little bit? Did I go off course?
Yeah. I think
Um,
that's the
yeah.
value of these health analyses right there that you said is we get these snapshots of progress, especially if you're looking to change, you're looking to transform in some direction. You check in with this health analysis and you can say, well, I made some progress here. Kind of didn't do a whole lot in this area with these suggestions over there, but overall, I'm headed in a good direction. and there's hope. There's hope for me. There's hope for what I'm trying to transform in my life. I think that's a really valuable feedback that we can get. It's kind of like checking in with a trusted friend or a counselor that says, "No, no, you've made so much progress. Yeah, and keep going because there's more."
Right.
I think that's a fundamental value of these. And I also like your analogy of the interlacing. You really see that evident in health analyses with the interlacing of thought and emotion and um, and the physical. Like it's just one thing. You can look at it from strata, like a mental field impacting um, an emotional field impacting a physical body, like a cascade, like a waterfall. But really, it's simultaneous. They're all infused together, all at the same time. So the mental is there's not this delay that we think. It is um, it's one system. It's one ecosystem.
Right. And that change that operates, I don't know, maybe the change is not the right word again, but what is operating this system, this ecosystem, it's brilliant. There's a brilliance behind it. There's an intelligence behind it. So I think of as I'm looking outside my window and I see the grass growing and the trees and the flowers and the season, it's winter,
Hmm.
what's dormant but still growing. Um, I think of just the intelligence of something that's constantly in motion and it's constantly doing everything it needs to already to adjust itself to whatever the other elements are, but it still needs other nutrients. It needs some kind of support if things are going to survive. So it's not operating in and of itself. And I think of the same thing for our body. There's so many things within this body of ours that is operating without us consciously being aware of. I'm breathing.
Hmm.
I'm not, my attention isn't on, I'm breathing in and out right now. I'm exhaling, inhaling, but it's operating, it's doing it. So this invisibleness, um, that appears in a visible way, sometimes negatively in our body, like an ache or a broken heart,
Hmm.
or
Right. Yeah.
whatever it is. The visible signs that we see, sometimes we can get further away from, and we get so caught up in what those visible signs are telling us. We can be
Hmm.
enamored by it, we could be disgusted by it, we can be hurt by it,
Yeah, we
whatever.
start feeling separate from it.
We
Yeah.
start feeling separate from whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but the thing again, back to these two intuitive reports, um, this person always anchored back to some degree of the initial desire for transmutation and transformation.
Yeah. That's crucial. We with reports, we typically don't like it when somebody buys a report for somebody else.
Mhm.
Like they see someone suffering, maybe with a health something or another, and they say, "I'm going to buy you this analysis, this
Yeah,
health analysis, see if we get some suggestions." Typically, that doesn't go that well
right.
because the person suffering is not quite ready to reach out and ask for there's not the desire to change just yet. They're
Mhm.
still sort of steeped in the suffering part of things. And you can feel it when you turn that corner to desire.
Yeah.
I actually want some new information. I actually want some input, some objectivity. There is a corner that you turn at that
Mhm.
moment. And that's the crucial element, I think. And that comes through in both of these reports that she wants this. She wants
Yeah.
change. She's just frustrated about how to go about it. How, like, what do I start with? What is the most important thing? Um, is there a sequence? What what happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? There's a curiosity and there's a reaching out and a desire for the change that has to be there for this to work.
So, Paul, remind us again, if someone wants a health analysis, what's it composed of? What will they get? So, just let's get down to the bones of what that is first.
Yeah, it's an intuitive report that focuses on the the integrated effects of thought, like repeated thoughts and attitudes, and how those affect the emotions of someone, and then how those thoughts and emotions are affecting the physical body all simultaneously. And so it'll analyze the that cascade of thought into emotion, into matter, into body for someone, and then also give suggestions for, like, here's something you can try, here's something you can try, try this, try that. And it's very personal, it's very individual, sometimes like embarrassingly so, but the tone of the reports are really fascinating because they're so compassionate and they're so neutral about
Mhm.
everything. We've had some really difficult situations that have come through, and the reports unanimously are very neutral and objective about how they describe what's going on, the causes of what's going on, and then some suggestions of what this person might try. Very like a benevolent voice of of neutrality about this. So that's that's one of the most fascinating things about these reports.
Yeah, my own personal experience with that is I'll echo that personal experiences. I always describe it as there's something that I just that has been said or conveyed in this health analysis that I can honestly say you are right. Like
Yeah.
like it elevates something, like it just elevates it for, and it just kind of says, yeah, this thing that you keep trying to say it is, well, this is really how it's being seen. And it's almost like it's just rising to the surface. And it's like that's the stuff that really now makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
it's that little inkling that I keep finding myself coming across or getting into. It
And
Go ahead.
well, I was just about to put a disclaimer in here because this starts sounding like medical advice, but it is not. It is
Right.
intuitive suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's an intuitive read on someone's aura. We're reading a mental aura and an emotional aura and a physical aura, and there's an intuitive set of suggestions that are provided. So it's not for diagnosis or treatment of health problems. Yes, seek a medical doctor um, for diagnosis and treatment. This is meant to supplement that, to
Yeah.
really look at the thoughts
Right. Not to
that are
supplant it.
behind
Mm-hmm.
things that you're experiencing.
Right.
And that's where the medical establishment really doesn't go that much unless you're in psychiatry or psychology. Um, that's where these health analyses shine. Um, you get that. I think it should be the first opinion, really. There's a book actually that was written called First Opinion that was based on these health analyses, and then go to the doctor. But I'd say in tandem is probably the best thing that you could do.
And it's individual too, however you
Yeah.
decide to do that. Well, as an example of these two reports and the things that kind of surface to the top, like the first report, which was done again 2 years apart, it opens up with this one desires transformation and transmutation. It's as if this one wants to uproot that that is within her, and that this one dislikes and is in this the attention that this one is rooted in a way that this has not awakened to regarding the yielding. So there's a desire as well as something is going on
Hmm.
that is kind of as I always call it, it's kind of interrupting, getting in the way, but something else. So then we're going to jump ahead 2 years. And then it says, we see that this one draws from many different sources and lines of energy. and that this is intentional, that there's a strong pull into this one's being of this one's energies, and that there's an attempt to assimilate these. And that again, it talks about a desire and a desire that this one has to assimilate it quickly, even expecting that it occurs in an instant.
Yeah. And that's where she kind of ran into a little bit of a wall,
Mm-hmm.
which was she was aware of what she needed to do. She was aware of the changes that she could make happen, and she was getting irritated that it wasn't happening fast enough.
Yep.
Like I made these changes mentally. So what's going on? Why is this? And so the energy started building up
Mm-hmm.
as mental frustration.
Right.
And come on, come on. Where's the physical result?
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty common situation for people
Mm-hmm.
when you realize all I have to do is just make this change. Yeah. And wait and wait for the
Right.
effects to filter all the way through. When you really think of it, the thoughts are so fast and the body is kind of sluggish in response to your thoughts. You can
Mm-hmm.
say, I want to go to the gym and, develop my body. That that thought cost you about 2.5 seconds. And then there's about, 3 months of going to the gym to make the physical change actually happen.
Oh, yeah. That's a good analogy. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I think there it goes back to, and she's using, I'm making the assumption because she's got two reports, but she's using
Mhm.
these reports to kind of do a check-in. Let me
Yeah,
do a check-in with myself using a health analysis to give me an idea of,
some
am I,
direction. Yeah.
yeah, am I still in alignment? Am I working? What's distracting me a bit? And that's how I see both of these as, again, one ecosystem. It's just giving you a picture of how time, and that's why I go back to this image of nature and land. It's like time is still there, like the tree is still growing. And it even mentions the term divine timing in the second intuitive report, that
Right.
the more
Yeah.
you can cooperate with divine timing. And as soon as I heard that, I thought, what the heck is meant by that? And of course, there's people can have their own interpretations. But as I kept kind of receiving it into myself, I thought that's how nature works.
Hmm.
It's 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 working with this, its own system. That's divine for me.
And don't we tend to, though, if things aren't happening fast enough, don't we go, I'm trusting in divine timing, I'm trusting in divine timing, and just in case divine timing is going to take too long, I'm going to go ahead and make this happen. I'm
Right,
going
right.
to step in and make it happen. And I think that's where she got into a little bit of trouble emotionally too,
Mm-hmm.
was initially really trying to trust and allow and receive and release. It just wasn't happening fast enough and got frustrated again with
Right.
this divine timing idea.
Yeah, it talks about that there's an act of surrender that this person was exploring and really wanted to understand. And that was another seed idea initially. It's like, there's an act of surrender. I really want to understand. I want to explore this. What does surrender really mean?
Yeah.
And that was again part of the original desire. And then we talk about, well, here's some things that are just kind of interfering with this desire you have to understand. And some of that is this, yes, and I'm Paul, I really think it's important for us to talk about patterns that can be productive and support us, like understandings we have that we've built, and or patterns that we've developed that sometimes maybe we're even unconscious that we keep doing things.
Hmm.
So I think both patterns come into play. And the unproductive, I call it unproductive patterns or interfering patterns, are the ones that then start going into this ecosystem and start disrupting our body a little bit.
Well, maybe even back up a step and say, why do we like patterns so much?
Mhm.
Like, why do we stick with patterns? Why not just free thinking thought, responding in the moment, and everything will be just hunky dory? Why do we develop and rely so heavily on patterns of thinking? Part of it, I think, is dips back to a previous episode where we started talking about ego. The ego is that story that you tell about yourself. You say, I'm this way, I'm that way, this is what I do, and this is who I am. And in order to convince yourself that you have this continuity and you've got this stability, you invent this story about yourself and develop it over time. But then that ego story can kind of trap you into a pattern of thinking that then if I'm this kind of person, then I think this way. If I'm an organized kind of person, then I think systematically. And darn it, I'm not going to, develop my intuition because I'm an organized person and I think systematically. And you just kind of trap yourself in this little box of this is how I do it, and this is how I've always done it. This is how my parents did it. This is how I was taught in school. Pattern, 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 pattern. And we just perpetuate these patterns, but we don't have to. We just get comfortable and familiar with these patterns. But they really could change. You could change them at any time.
That sounds so easy, Paul. Look at you.
Yeah,
It
I
sounds
know.
easy to say to
There you go. Just change your mind. Just yeah. Not so easy because they get crusty. We get crusty with our patterns. Krusty the clown. Yeah. Yeah. And we also really start liking our patterns too. When they're so close to our identity, then we start thinking my thoughts are me and my patterns are me. These patterns that I've invented. That's my story. That's my style. That's who I am. And that is dangerous territory to mess with
Well,
who
there's
who
one
you are.
line here. There's one line here that says, it's talking about forgiveness, but then it goes into, it says, we see that within this one, there is a spirit that is strong. I would call that a strong pattern, something a strong.
Yeah.
And then it says it would be helpful for this one to appreciate this about the self without trying to change that part of the self. So I
Mm,
do think that there are times when we have, again, back to this word pattern, where the things that we do so effortlessly, sometimes we get in our own way and we just like, we have a different perspective or how we even see that quality within ourselves. And even then we try to interfere with with this divine process of how our ecosystem is just really trying to fluidly move and work, but yet we
hmm
get in the way.
Yeah. How do we get out of the way?
Yeah.
What are well, we did some suggestions in another episode about
Mm-hmm.
the pausing, the power of the pause and breathing techniques and meditation and nature, going into nature. There's a great suggestion in the second health analysis. It's talking about her energy level, and uh, there was she was complaining about being tired all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, cease complaining when I'm paraphrasing here, when tired, and change this perspective to why there is a need for rest instead of, oh my God, I'm tired. Why not investigate why there's even a need for rest also? And it says the fatigue sets in when she's trying to control the timing of her desires and her desires manifesting. So it's
Yeah.
that forcing idea again,
Forcing idea.
trying
Yep.
to trying to push through these creations. Come on, come on, I'm
Mm-hmm.
on a schedule here.
Yep.
And it says sleep releases to divine timing. So when you go to sleep, this is very in alignment with Abraham Hicks material too. When you go to sleep, you step out of this man-made time continuum that we've invented to describe things, and you're more into now. You're into that singular bubbling up of nowness when you go to sleep. There's only now. There's some nows that are going to come up in a little while, and there's some nows that just happened. And see, we already start. working into there's a future and there's a past, but really there's just now. That's all we've ever experienced.
Yeah.
And when you go to sleep, you get to release into that eternal now for a little while and let the divine timing do its thing.
Well, I mean, again, it's trying to understand our body a little bit more, and it even says here the knowledge that this one has regarding the physical form, and that the recommendation is for this one to tune into this daily with a holy reverence and greater trust in the physical form.
Hmm.
So
In every
just tuning
cell,
into that
even.
in every cell and the
Yeah.
intelligence and spirit that resides there. There's a deeper awareness of the physical form for this one to discover. The secrets within the body are eternal. Therefore, the awareness that this one seeks are much closer than this one realizes. And in order for this awareness to be revealed, there will need to be greater acceptance, forgiveness, and support given to the self. I'm going to use myself as an example with this.
Hmm.
I recently, changing, left a long career in an institutionalized educational system. A lot of good things about it, a lot of really heavy things about it. But as I left one system to go into this next system of my life, there are times when my body, I just remember it's like I used to call it, I got to detox my body because it's still living in how I used to manage it or uphold it within this other system that I worked in, this
Mm.
other educational system that I worked in. And so I was talking to a friend just the other day about different experiences she's having with that same educational system. And she's asking me, what are your thoughts? Do you want to come back, et cetera, et cetera? And my body starts having a reaction.
Yeah, really.
It's like and
Yeah.
I don't think I ever really closely listened to it that well previously
Mm.
to say my body is telling me something to either move in a certain direction or move away from a certain direction.
Yeah. And you don't know it until you step out of that situation.
That's right.
Then you go, whoa, okay, I think I see the influence going on here. Yeah.
And I think that's what this is saying is that there's a tuning into the body that will help guide how will guide you. And in this report, it even talks about how this person has a connection with nature and that there's an attuning to that nature that's just natural, that it's a natural element within her. Again, a pattern of understanding that this one brings with her.
Yeah.
So there's other clues that are not clues, but direct suggestions of how to move with this ecosystem of the body.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of
And that
course, yeah, go
that
ahead.
played out in the report goes on to talk about her relationship with food.
Hmm.
And we all have a relationship with food.
Don't we
Yeah.
ever?
Some people don't like food and shun food, and some people really, really enjoy food, and some people just eat
Or
food utilitarianistically. That's even a word.
some people eat
Um,
food and they're afraid of eating food because they think the food is going to make them a
yeah,
certain
there's
size. I mean,
or all the toxins in the food, and
yeah,
food has all these poisons in it. And so it really dives into
yeah.
the second report dives into the relationship with food. And I love this line where it says, she's got a fixed idea regarding food that she needs to awaken to, and it's related to the idea that she can eat anything anytime. It says, true, but what are the effects on the body of eating anything anytime? Yes, you can eat anything anytime, but what are the effects? And and I think that goes along with that ecosystem idea. When you introduce something new into the ecosystem that's been humming along just fine, it's going to tinker with the machine. It's going to change things, and we can be scientists about it. We can experiment with different foods and say, "Whoa, okay, let's not do that high sugar glucose kind of thing here. It makes me feel terrible." So I think it's sort of introducing and encouraging that idea of experimentation and seeing the link and paying attention to
Mhm.
the physical body. and the intelligence that is right there all the time with us
Yeah.
in the physical body.
I'll give another example of a young girl that I knew. Um, she was, it was a middle school. I was helping out a school. The mother was there with her daughter. The daughter was um, a middle schooler, but her whole life since she was born, the only way she could receive nutrition was through the tube within her stomach. So
Hmm.
her experience with food, this young girl's was she just didn't have one. Her whole experience was I receive my nutrients and my nutrition from a liquid. I'm not chewing it. I don't. And I was just really intrigued. I even had this conversation with the mom. It's like how does she experience? She goes, well, sometimes I let her chew things, but she can't swallow it, just to get, the flavors in her mouth. But that got me thinking about this relationship we have with food, even around ceremony,
Hmm.
even culture.
Social
So
situations,
yeah,
yeah,
I
dating,
mean,
yeah.
I love watching the Great British Baking Show. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many things that and again, I don't want to say that that's right or wrong. I'm not putting a judgment on that because
Hmm.
I think that there's so much fun stuff. We just had the holidays, and there was a little bit more sugar in our life, than probably at least in my life that we were used to. But so I don't hear these reports ever saying you should do this, you shouldn't do that, stay away from this forever.
Yeah.
This
That's the
is
gentle part of the reports where they
it,
say, well, we would suggest that you might take a look at this and
for the now,
yeah,
for the now,
contemplate that. And
because
nothing extreme. Yeah.
well,
Cut
because
this out completely.
there have
No.
been other health reports where sometimes there's different diet recommendations that are
Hmm.
totally out of the norm.
Yeah.
It's sometimes your body is experiencing something again based on how these intuitive reports have done, and I've had them myself where I've had them 6 months apart. And on one report, I could see the dramatic change within just 6 months
Yeah.
that it even recommended a different incorporating different foods in my body. And that recommendation was different even 6 months ago
Yeah.
because
I
what was occurring in my life at that time was a dramatic change.
Yeah, it can be periodic.
Yeah.
I think of the Chinese five element theory where different seasons you really need to pay attention to the energies, whether the energies going on in that season are rising or they're falling, and is it dry or is it a moist season or um, is it like a moving out kind of season like summer or is it a moving in kind of season like winter? And those then can dictate the kinds of foods that you eat, even down to like you really need more sweet things going on here, or more bitter, or you need more white foods or red foods, or so it really
Or
is a
different
changing thing.
proteins or no proteins. It just
Yeah,
depends. Yeah.
it's it's changing because of our thoughts, our emotions, our environment, the people we're around, our ambitions, um, karma and dharma play into it. So it's this really personal matrix of uh, of energies that are going on at any given time.
Right.
And then there's patterns. And then there's patterns. Like with this second health analysis, I was just reading ahead here a little bit um, again about the oh yeah, she asked about balance and it it gently revealed that she has a bias against balance, which was really revealing. It was wonderful. She had some problems with vertigo. She was getting dizzy all the time, and it said, "Well, you do hold this pattern of thinking that balance is boring," and it actually said it in the report. And I talked with her after the report, a little while after the report, and we investigated that. And it was pretty hilarious. But at the time, she wasn't quite aware of that attitude about balance. But it was more poetic, more metaphorical that balance is boring. I want to be exciting. I want to be different. I want to be innovative. I want to be bold. That's how I want to be, was her attitude. And measured patterns of balance were just kind of meh, not exciting.
No, and again, the recommendations were for that specific vertigo, were again going back to what does the body need to help just that it's not going to change it. You still have to work on the whole thought pattern that contributes to this balance, but it's recommending chiropractic attention to the neck, to the jaw.
Hmm.
And then it's talking about yoga, but not just yoga, specific yoga stances
Yeah.
um, that help move the energy drain from certain places down to the feet. Yeah, so it makes specific systemic recommendations, and what are other things out there that people can help you, and service from another specialist,
Right. Right.
can
So
help.
that's where this
Acupuncture,
comes
like
in
acupuncture
tandem.
was also recommended.
Yeah. Where these health analyses will point to other systems and say, yeah, take full advantage of these other systems, experts in these fields.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but this can be your first stop to get some ideas of where to go and what to build into your I don't know, your changes, your transformation that you want to build.
Yeah, no, I thought that was pretty. Yeah, other things, Tai Chi, Qigong.
Hmm.
Yeah, just again, but again, the health analysis will connect, like there's something occurring in this specific organ, and that organ, the purpose of that organ's function is to do X, Y, and Z. But there's a thought pattern that's coming in that's interfering with the function of that organ doing whatever it's able to do.
Yeah, there was a report we had just a couple of days ago. I was talking to you before we started the episode, that this guy, um, he had health analysis, and he had essentially it was rigidity in the thinking, and it was affecting his. He'd held on to rigidity in the thinking, which is like, um, my thoughts are the right thoughts, and nothing new is allowable into my world. He started getting spinal difficulties because of the rigidity in his thinking. So metaphorically, the pattern that you hold in your mind starts rippling out into this denser tissue, into the body, and the the fear of vulnerability was affecting his organs, like all of his organs. It didn't just say the stomach is being affected. It said all of the organs are being affected by this rigidity and this fear of vulnerability, like someone else is going to introduce ideas that I disagree with, and so I'm going to block these
Keep,
ideas.
keep you at bay.
So, not to talk too much about a whole other report to confuse people, but I just wanted to show that you can look at health analyses kind of like a poem, like a in metaphorical,
Mhm.
symbolic language, universal language of mind, and it actually works to a certain degree.
Well, I'm going to take time to thank this person for giving us permission to use these two health analyses, because there's something else that to what you were just saying, Paul. Um, because this person asked the question about integrating the death of her mother.
Mhm.
And then this particular report then says that there's a cord of anger and bitterness that is tied to the one of the mother and is seated in the belly.
Yeah.
So again, a health analysis, depending on the type of questions you ask, obviously it's not going to just offer it, but the type of question that was asked is going to say, well, here's what is seen of how that thought or what that thought is and how
Yeah.
that's connected to your body.
Yeah. How the energies are being
Mm-hmm.
held on to.
Mm-hmm. And then
And forgiveness then
forgiveness
releases
ties in with
energy.
that.
Yeah.
It's a deep wound within this one. It's recommending massage support in releasing that cord. It even says it that way.
Hmm.
Um, that it's not something to get past or to shun or to override or to avoid. That this is timing is right. Again, back to this timing, that there's a surrender that's important and that there's a yielding that's being asked of to allow it for this emotion to come through. Um, and that there's that through that forgiveness, that there's this longing for this just unconditional love to come through.
Yeah.
So this report, these two report also just talks about just some things that are just embedded deep. And yeah, there is a little bit of fear. It's like, what am I going to uncover if I keep healing myself?
Hmm. That brings up another good point. Actually, we didn't talk about this, but I think this is a good spot. Um, the universals that I keep hearing in health analyses
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over and over, there's this theme of trust that over and over comes up. Trusting in, like this one said, trusting in divine timing, trusting in the body to send signals and listen to the body, trusting that there is a vast intelligence that is working behind the scenes, and then this idea of surrender to this vast intelligence that is working behind the scenes. Those two things, trust and surrender, are really, really common for people. So when you ask for a health analysis, you've come up against some kind of wall, you've come up against some kind of block in yourself or frustration, and you need some input, you need some ideas, some suggestions. In comes this idea of surrender and trust. And how do you think that how do you think that plays out
Right.
typically? It's kind of 50-50. Some people will go, "Oh, yeah, you're right. I need to just relax and allow, and I need to relax and accept this, or I need to surrender and trust."
Or
And then
depending on where your mind is, I am allowing. I'm a trusting person.
I'm totally trusting.
I
I just
think
need
I,
to fix
I
this
think
thing.
I think I
Yeah.
do surrender at times. Yeah. So
Yeah.
even
And keep it all intellectual
keep that's right.
and pushing it away.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that's a life's work, though,
Yeah.
of trusting and surrendering. You can sink deeper and deeper and deeper into that, allowing more and more of this deep intelligence, the source energy to permeate your being. That takes vulnerability. That takes surrender and openness and receiving. And our culture isn't that keen on that. Maybe for women, but for guys, it is really difficult
Huh.
to be that
Wow.
surrendery, to be that allowing. We're supposed to,
I got
get
this.
out
I
there and
got it.
make things happen.
I
And
got it. I got this. I'll figure this out.
yeah, I got this. I'll
I'll take
figure it
care of
out.
it. I'll
Figure it
take
out.
care of
Yeah.
it.
Very Western.
Mm-hmm.
The Eastern approach is much more yielding, allowing, Taoist, um, trusting.
The indigenous ways of just going deeper
Great
within.
Spirit will direct what is
Mm-hmm.
going on here.
Right.
Who am I, to to call the shots in this?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah.
I
So,
do think that back to our Western ways, this therapy comes into play. Just talking to someone, and I am not, again, I'm not endorsing, I'm not negating, I'm just saying that there are so many resources out there. And I think for me, what I've heard with multiple reports is that you find the right person
yeah.
to work with, whether it's your medical doctor, whether it's a teacher that teaches you Tai Chi, whether it's whatever it is, you find the right acupuncturist, you find someone that um, has another level of wisdom, not just expertise, but a level of wisdom
Yeah.
to the skill that they've developed that can work with you. Because again, in this ecosystem that we're not meant to function all by ourselves and to heal ourselves, but yet it is our responsibility to take that first leap and say, what is my responsibility? Um, to begin, not begin, to cooperate. Because I think
Yeah. That's a good
healing,
word.
Yeah,
Right.
to cooperate, because I think it's a continual. I think it's a continual whether we're aware of it or not
Hmm.
is obviously occurring. But I do agree with you that the themes here are always about trust, surrender, love, forgiveness.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, those are some underlying themes that will always come up to play. Um,
Gratitude is
gra-
very often in there.
right. And again,
Appreciation.
these are seed ideas. These are thoughts,
Yeah.
right?
Huge
These are
concepts. And
huge.
yeah.
And I think we also spoke about the whole mirroring effect of how this ecosystem, and you've know people, I know people, we've been around people that have such a just an energy about them that is loving. I mean, you just want to be in their space. You don't mind being in their space. You're not even aware why being in their space is so comforting or relaxing. And then
Yeah.
the same is true about other people where it's like, I can only be around you for just a glimmer of a moment.
Sort of prickly. Yes.
It's you're kind of poking
Yeah.
out, you're saying
Smart
things,
as a whip, but I just don't want to spend that much time with them.
there's
Yeah.
something about it is
Right.
heavier. It's heavy. It has a heaviness. It has a,
Yeah.
again, prickly. You said a good word. It has a darkness to it, or
Right.
the way it sounds. I mean, even the words that are used sometimes have a harshness to it extremely. I mean, none of us are perfect. We all say things
Hmm.
at different times, but I mean, I'm talking about a repeated, like it's like a cloak that's
Yeah.
dark and heavy and
And that goes back to that core, that's more like a dharmic, karmic kind of field that you carry with you because of past life experiences and misunderstandings, maybe, and also strengths, weaknesses that have just built up over lifetime, over lifetime, over lifetime that just make you this. This is my package. This is where I'm at right now
right.
with my vibration, my core vibration.
Mhm.
And that's what you're bringing to the world. And that can be changed. It can be changed. You got to want to to change it or not, actually. From again, your experiences will layer on top of whatever your experiences have been, whatever your understandings have been, you layer more. It's like I go to high school and then I go to college and then I go to graduate school, then I go to medical school, maybe. And all of those experiences and those learnings are layered, 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 and they affect your perspective on the world. They affect the kind of questions you ask. They affect the way you relate with people. They affect how your heart is, you know, how you love, how you make friends or don't or keep friends. All of those experiences is this matrix, this ecosystem. I'm going to really use this ecosystem metaphor. I love it. Um, and then you can tweak things. You can step in consciously and start changing things or
Yeah.
not.
Well, I let's keep
Still up to
going
you.
with that ecosystem idea. I always think about it in the world we live in. I mean, we have our environmentalists. We
Hmm.
have I some my secret wish internally is if every person could have access to greater insight, like a health analysis, and just give it a good, solid listening to, and just even if you use one thing that's been given to you,
Yeah.
you will have a greater impact on your environment, on your own immediate environment. And that will have yet another lasting effect on the environment that surrounds that. And then, of
Mhm.
course, we go back to this world. I, you know, our this the planet, the universe that we are part of. We're not separate from it, and it the more you want to confront something or change someone's idea to your way of thinking or whatever it is, that's having some kind of an impact on this environment. Hence, that maybe you want to save,
Yeah.
or that you it, or you can approach it in another way and still have another objective while you're also healing yourself. So it's a
Yeah.
win-win in my mind.
I'd say a really good example, personal example for me is pretty early on in my metaphysics studies. I was a really, really extremely uh, shy. I don't know if it's shy. I was introverted, like extremely introverted. Had a really hard time relating with people and had a really hard time speaking, just actually speaking words out of my mouth. Had a really hard time with that in social situations. And it really bugged me and it annoyed me. And early on in my studies in metaphysics, I got a health analysis and a past life profile. And both of them said, you got some good ideas here, bud, and you need to speak more because you could really help people. And the help people actually got my attention because I knew I cared about people and I cared about animals and I cared a lot. And I wanted to convey that somehow, that caringness somehow to others. And those two suggestions combined gave me this trajectory of I want to learn how to speak. I want to learn how to talk. And that just parked itself in my mind. And I started
Mm.
making choices, conscious choices, to put myself in situations where I'd have to speak. And yeah, I went through a lot of shirts, if you know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
But I learned it just step by step, and
Right.
it drove me to shape a totally different trajectory of my life than I would have otherwise done. I would have ended up, I don't know, in some very introverted kind of profession and not had a lot of friends and not had a lot of impact on the world. But just those couple of suggestions nudged me and kept me going. And I believed them. There was that. So back to that thing that you said in the very beginning, which was there's this element of, dang, that's right. Huh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that sounds, yep, can't argue with that.
Yeah, because I do, again, and I don't think I'm being naive, but I do believe that every person has an element of a desire or something that they really want to do that's good. And I mean just that comes from a place of a desire for wanting to have a betterness for themselves. And that's different depending on who the person is. But I do believe that. Even people that I think are awful people,
Hmm.
I think there's something in there that's really seated deeply within them. And what you're talking about is just reminds me that these health analysis and actually all of the intuitive reports are going to lean into this, but it's that day-to-day process and experiences and interactions with yourself, with others, and just anchoring to something that will move you towards
Yeah, nudge you forward. Yeah.
nudge you forward a tiny bit. And before you know it, this divine timing it's already working.
Hmm.
It works because you're just doing one thing at a time.
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
allows you then to surrender a little bit more and trust a
Yes.
little bit more
Right.
and receive a little bit more. And that snowball gets rolling. Yeah.
Well, in every one of these health analysis, it's always asks, are there any suggestions for this one's soul growth and spiritual development?
Hmm.
And this one I think is beautifully written or stated. This one has the capacity to root deeply into the true self, has the capacity to do this. We see that this is helpful for this one to be around people that recognize this in her and validate it. Would be helpful for this one to use the memory of when this one has felt this kind of support and to allow this to nourish her currently.
Mm.
Ah, it's like
Mm.
having a clear glass of water going all the way down your, it's like, that's what I needed.
Yeah.
This one must be patient within the self. And yes, there is no bypass to this long term. So there's no shortcuts. You got to just do the work.
Yeah.
It would aid this one to explore
Synesthesia.
synesthesia
Yeah.
regarding patience.
That's when you can smell a color or
Yep.
taste a vision or, yeah,
Yeah.
blending of the senses.
Again, having the body do other things.
Yeah.
It's kind of like have your body do other things to help get you into this place. But I thought
Playing
that
it like
was,
an instrument.
yeah,
Yeah. Huh. We should really let people listen to these reports at this point. With this discussion that we've had, um, I think a nice segue is just you just got to hear these things
You just have to hear them.
and
Yeah.
uh, and
Undivided attention.
make up your
That
own
helps.
mind.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's again, I just can't reiterate it. It's thank you to this person for saying yes, because it's hopefully it's obviously wherever her journey is that it's she's her ecosystem is extending now to this report,
Hmm.
and the ecosystem is extending now to this podcast, and whoever's listening to this, it's another way of giving service without this person even knowing it. By her saying yes, please share my report,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's so thank
She's
you.
helping other people.
I
Yeah.
just want to say thank you to that. And thank you, Paul. You always have some nice insights on these
Well,
things.
thank you, Capucine. You got this thing rolling, so
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Once Upon a Quantum Leap is for your reference only. This podcast and the material is intended solely as educational information and should not be used for diagnosis or treatment of any health problem, financial, or legal advice.
You can listen to full episodes and find out about Paul and Capucine at onceuponaquantumleap.com. All reports shared on this show have been released with permission, and identifiers have been removed for individuals' privacy.
The Intuitive reports referred to in each episode are available on our website, on the podcast page, and through links in our show notes. We encourage you to listen to those for greater context.
If you're interested in obtaining your own intuitive report, go to quantuminsight.co. That's quantuminsight.co. You can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.